What's up, guys? It's Justin Kahn, and you're listening to The Quest, my newish podcast. And this is the end of 2020, the year that we've all been waiting to end. And so I want to do this special episode as a recap of the year and the podcast. There's not going to be any guests today. It's going to be a lot shorter, probably just a couple minutes. I just want to take this opportunity to answer a few questions that I've gotten about the podcast and talk a little bit about how I want it to evolve for 2021. All right, so 2020, I'll start by telling you guys a little bit about how 2020 has been for me. Even though it's been pretty hard, really difficult at times, been in lockdown with my family for the last, 9 months since March, along with probably the rest of you living in America. I've been able to find some silver linings, and I wanted to talk about that because I think for me, gratitude has been this really important part of my life, and I hope that you all can take a moment to find a little gratitude for whatever's been happening in your own lives as well. There's kind of always something to be grateful for, and so I wanted to call that out. For me, 2020 has been an opportunity to spend more time with some people that I hadn't been able to spend time with before, or maybe never would have gotten the chance or the opportunity to spend time with them as an adult, with the family. But when we went into lockdown in March, we did with a couple friends who happened to be staying with us at the time. So my business partner at Go Capital, Robin Chan, and my good friends, Jason Tan, the CEO of Sift, who has been on the podcast, and his girlfriend, Tergel. We just lived together for quite a long time, actually, a couple months. And it was just such a great opportunity to get to know and get close to people that I hadn't, we were already friends, but, really time spent is something that is irreplaceable in building a deep relationship. And so really thankful for that. And then later on, spending time with other people who I haven't, probably wouldn't have gotten the chance to spend time with. That's one really big silver lining for me that I want to express gratitude for at the moment. Another is really the opportunity to spend more time with family. So I had my first kid last year, and, in the new regime of working from home and being able to work on Zoom and do things remotely, it has been pretty wonderful to be able to spend that first year with my kid and my wife and kid at home, where we can, I can see him growing up every day, and haven't had to miss any time, which probably would not have been the case if I was working as I was in the past, in an office and more than 9 to 5. So I've been really thankful for that, and I've noticed a lot of my other friends who have young kids have been in that similar position. So those are probably the two things that are most top of mind for me, and I think it's really important. However, wherever you're at, whatever's happening, I know I have a lot of privilege and a lot of advantages and a lot of things that are easier for me during this pandemic. But I think wherever you're at, there's always room for gratitude and to really spend some time documenting for yourself what are the things that you are and can be thankful for. So another question I wanted to talk about, which I get a lot from friends and acquaintances and just people on the internet, is why am I doing this podcast and what's my goal with it? And I think that's really interesting because at the beginning of this year, I set out the goal for myself to only work on things where I have intrinsic motivation. Part of my journey has been realizing that throughout my life, I've always done things from a place of extrinsic motivation, which I mean, I was motivated by something on the outside of me, right? So I wanted to get money, or I wanted to get fame, or I wanted to impress other people. Those were the primary drivers that led me to start companies in the first place and become an entrepreneur and then work really hard to be successful. And when people would talk about the previous startups that I'd started, whether it was video, like with Justin TV or Twitch, around gaming and, or any others, they would always assume, oh, you must be really into video, or you must be into video games, or, whatever. And, I like video games as much as the next guy, but actually, I'd say, oh, it was just a business idea. I just wanted, it was something I wanted to do because I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I just had this idea of something to tackle. And, it was interesting to learn about it, but it wasn't really oftentimes really all the times, those startups weren't driven from a place of intrinsic motivation. And so, coming into 2020, doing the self-work that I've done that you've heard about on this podcast, I really realized, wow, I actually want to only do things from a place of intrinsic motivation. And that's the place I came from with this podcast. Was I wanted to have conversations with people who I liked, who I thought had interesting stories that I wanted to find out more and connect more deeply with, people in my life primarily, but also new people that I've just met. And I've always loved people and getting to know people. When I was a kid, I was very shy. I was a shy extrovert, and I didn't know how to connect with other people. And I felt that I would need to prove myself in the world as this, great business person to get people to want to connect with me. And over the past couple of years, I've realized, no, actually, I can just connect with people by spending the time to get to know them and by building a genuine curiosity for them and asking them questions. And really, that's what this podcast is about and what it's enabled for me. And so, one of my goals was really to pursue these intrinsic motivations. And the other is really to document the learnings that I've had and that I've seen a lot of people around me have, and the transformation that I've gone through and the transformation I've seen others go through, and really share that, these are the lessons I would have wanted to know 10 years ago. Like how to find equanimity in my life, what's important in life, how to build relationships with other people, how to build practices that can support you when you're down and build resilience for the times that are tough. And I wish I came to this self-work, so much earlier in my life, 10, 15 years ago, but I didn't. And today I really just want to document what I've been doing and learn more about what I could be doing for the kid, the young entrepreneur, someone who's just getting started, so that they might come to this stuff and discover it a little bit earlier. So that's what I've been really motivated by. That's what excites me in this podcast. Those are the stories I'm trying to tell. And I really appreciate all of you being here with me as I figure it out live. So lastly, I want this podcast to evolve in 2021. And that's something I'm particularly excited about. One of the things I want to do is make the podcast more collaborative. So right now, I've just been running through the friends I have, and, I figure out who has an interesting story, and I'm like, okay, hey, come on and record this thing. But I really want it to be, I really love the idea of like building something in open, and I want to solicit ideas. I've started to solicit podcast guest ideas, as well as ideas for new formats or like what kinds of questions people want to ask or topics that are particularly interesting. I want to solicit that from the audience and build it, together with the group of hardcore listeners who love what's going on with the podcast. So I'm excited to do that. And in order to do that, we are going to start something that we're calling the Quest Fellows. So my producer, Brent, and I are working on this. And what we're going to do is launch this fellowship of hardcore listeners who themselves are pursuing some interesting path. They're finding their own passion in the world, figuring out how to get there, whether it's building a company or becoming an artist. And we want you to join our fellowship and then work with us on this podcast. Become part of our community. So we're launching that application on January 5th, and I'll be hosting a Reddit AMA where you can find out more or ask me about anything else. There'll be more details in the show notes, but I'm really excited about that. I'm also going to start making more content myself. Going back to the intrinsic motivation, I found I'm like super excited to make content. And, I used to do content on Snapchat about startups, and that was fun. And it got less fun for me actually when I started just focusing on how to build views. So, my resolution today is really focus on making the content I like for the reasons that, I like it, and not really focus so much on trying to figure out what's going to build the maximum viewership or do things for extrinsic motivations. And so, I'm going to start making content on YouTube and TikTok and other platforms just for funsies. And, this real whole Justin Kahn media push is really a labor of love. So I want to give you a heads up about that, and I'm excited to share it with all of you. So that's it. I hope all of you have a very happy New Year's holiday season. And I hope we collectively can start 2021 with a much more optimistic outlook, for the next year and how society will slowly return back to normal and we can all see other people again. I know I've been starved for human connection, and I'm sure all of you are out there as well. So wishing you the best as you weather this final stretch, and hope you all stay safe. And I really thank you for listening and supporting the podcast. And as always, if you like what you hear, bang out that 5-star rating, share it, hit me on Twitter @JustinKhan, and I will see you guys all next year. Thank you.